Okay, so to finish up with John Hay and China and the open door policy. So once the United States, once we help kind of this multinational group that was being held kind of hostage by the boxers, John Hay says, okay, because we did this for you, you need to allow the United States to trade wherever we want. And not only can the United States do that, but so can other countries too. So Germany can, Germany can travel outside of their zone, and the French can do the same, and the Dutch, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's John Hay and the open door policy. And I guess the other thing I want to mention is they kind of mentioned this in the video, the big stick policy. Roosevelt got this, and I know in the video they said that Roosevelt, after he was done with his presidency in 1908, he stepped aside, he handpicked William Howard Taft, and then he went and did a lot of safaris in Africa. But even before that, Roosevelt had always been an avid outdoorsman. And so through this, there is an African saying that said, walk softly but carry a big stick, meaning that when you are going wherever you are, you don't want to make a lot of noise, you don't want to cause a big disturbance, but you need to carry a big stick because you never know what might pop out in front of you, and you've got to be ready to protect yourself. Well, that was Roosevelt's approach to his policy, is that the United States, we weren't going to go around, we weren't going to try to bully anyone and make them do things we didn't want to. But at the same time, if someone was going to start something with the United States, we were going to finish it. And so this was kind of Roosevelt's approach. Next.
Grandpa, would you like to take us?
Is the Panama Canal. Now, when the Spanish-American War broke out, the USS Oregon, one of our battleships, was docked in San Francisco, and it got sent to help with what was going on in Cuba. Well, this means that it's gonna have to travel all the way around the southern tip of South America, around, I believe it's the Cape Horn. It's either Cape Horn or Cape of Good Hope. One is the southern tip of South America, one's the southern tip of Africa. Anyway, by the time it makes this incredibly long journey and it gets to Cuba, the war's over. And so the United States said, there's got to be a better way. There needs to be a shorter route that can be taken. And so the United States looks at creating a canal that's going to run from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, but it's going to go somewhere through Central America. Because in Central America, you have what's called an isthmus. Basically, Central America is an isthmus. An isthmus is a geographical term for a narrow strip of land that connects two larger bodies of land. And this is essentially what Central America is. Now, the French had already started to build a canal in Panama, because canal is the narrowest strip of land through all of Central America. However, Panama is a colony of Colombia. And Colombia said, no, we're not going to allow you, the United States, to build this. So the United States said, that's fine. We'll go look elsewhere. So now we turn our sights towards Nicaragua. Nicaragua is a little further north. The country's a little bit wider. Now, if there's one good thing, it's that there is a large natural lake in Nicaragua. And so it's a matter of digging a canal from the Pacific Ocean to this lake, and from the Caribbean Sea to this lake, or actually be the Gulf of Mexico to the Caribbean Sea to this lake, and then joining the two. Well, the U.S. just gets started with this, and there's a large earthquake in Nicaragua. The United States is like, we don't want to build this canal only to have it ruined by a large earthquake. Now, they set their sights back on Panama again. Now remember, I had said that the French had started to build a canal there, but they had abandoned it. And the main reason why they abandoned it was because of a disease that was running rampant in this area. And the disease is malaria or yellow fever. It's carried by mosquitoes. A mosquito bites someone that has it. Now the mosquito goes and bites someone else, and the disease has just been transmitted from one person to another. And you're in an area where mosquitoes are rampant. And so the United States is like, do we really try to pursue something like this? The French had the equipment to build this canal, but they didn't have the manpower because so many men were dying. Well, a doctor in the United States comes up with a vaccine for yellow fever. So now the United States is going to go ahead and they're going to try to build this canal. What the U.S. does is they meet with Panamanian officials and they say, here's the deal. We want to build a canal in your country. Would you let us? And they said, well, yes, we would let you, but we're controlled by Colombia. They said, okay, here's what we want you to do. We want you to start a revolution. They said, but if we do that, Colombia is going to attack us. The U.S. said, well, we know this. We want you to start a revolution. You start a revolution, and we will make sure that your revolution succeeds and you get your independence. So, a USS warship anchors off the coast where the Colombian-Panamanian border is. And then soldiers go on shore. This coincides with when the revolution is going to start. So the Panamanians start their revolution in Colombia. Word gets to Colombia. Colombian government sends their military forces up into Panama. They get to the border to cross from Colombia into Panama, and lo and behold, there are U.S. troops there. And the U.S. troops look at them like, where are you going? Like, well, we've got to go put down that revolution in Panama. They're like, no, you don't. Panamanians want to revolt and become independent. We're going to let them revolt and become independent. What are you going to do about it? Well, the only thing the Colombian government can do is turn around, put their tail between their legs, and head back to Colombia because they don't want to mess with the United States. The United States, we've become a world power. We established this after the Spanish-American War. So, Panama says, okay, you got your wish. You can build the canal now. And so they do it. Problem is, you can't dig a trench that goes right through the middle of Panama because when you get to the interior of Panama, it gets rather mountainous. And so how in the world can you get boats to travel uphill on water? This was an architectural feat that the United States had to overcome, and they were able to do this. You're going to watch a video now, and in the video, I want you to pay attention to when the boats travel through locks and how the boats will rise and lower. So we're going to watch this video now. Okay, so here's this ship getting ready to head through the Panama Canal, and from time to time I'm going to pause it so I can point some things out to you. So here it is, sails in. Okay, now I want you to pay attention to where the people are right here in conjunction with this, what's called this gate right here, or this set of locks. Okay, now look where they're at. When they started, they were at the base of it. Now they're up above it. The boat sails in, a set of locks behind the boat closes, and then where they're at, water's pumped in, and as the water level rises, the boat rises. They sail into the next set of locks. Same thing happens. Boat rises up. Stop again. Boat rises up. They sail on through. That's how you get a boat to travel uphill. Now the boat has to travel downhill in water. You might be thinking, well, downhill, just go with the flow, man, let it go. But you can't do it. It has to be controlled because these are large ships, and if they're going downhill too fast, they're going to gain too much momentum. So it has to be a controlled descent. So again, watch where the boat is now and watch where it ends up. See it lower? So what happens is the locks in front are closed, and they close the locks behind it, and then they pump water out. As the water level drops, the boat drops. Now it's going to go through the same process right here, twice, lowers once, lowers again, and continues on through. Okay, then there's a Roosevelt corollary. I mentioned the Monroe Doctrine several times earlier on in this chapter. The Roosevelt corollary is just added to the Monroe Doctrine, and basically what it says is that if any countries from Europe intervene for whatever reason in any business in Latin America, the United States reserves the right to intervene.
I'm not that. I'm Big Bomb.
Okay, and then this last one is called the the Taft Amendment. I'm going to pause this and see if I can't get all of this. And so what you have now is you have the Roosevelt corollary, or what's called dollar diplomacy. Okay, and so what you have happening is the Roosevelt corollary. So Taft is going to amend it. William Howard Taft becomes president after Teddy Roosevelt, and dollar diplomacy is trying to substitute dollars for bullets. What William Howard Taft wants to do is he wants to invest money or give Latin America money. Here's the thing. The reason why Latin America is struggling so much with their government is because their economies are horrible. They have horrible industry. So they constantly have to borrow money from European countries, and then they don't use that money wisely. They don't have the ability to pay it back. That's when European countries want to intervene. So what Taft wants to do is give these countries money, let them build up their economies, and their economies become strong enough, they don't have to borrow money from Europe. So that's the theory of substituting dollars for bullets. Give them money, then we don't have to use bullets later on. And the way Taft sees it, it should actually save the U.S. money, because if we have to go to war with a European country, it's probably going to cost us a lot more money than the money we've given these countries, plus we're saving American lives. This brings to an end Chapter 12, Section 3. Now you'll be taking the quiz.